Welcome back, focused learners. I am literally so thrilled you're here today because, wow, do we have a fascinating topic to unpack. Before we even get into the nuts and bolts of today's explainer, I want you to consider this absolutely mind-blowing fact. Red Bull sells over 11 billion cans a year, worldwide. Let that sink in, 11 billion. That is more than one can for every single human being on the planet, and it brings in billions of dollars in revenue. If you're someone who just loves figuring out the hidden mechanics behind the everyday stuff we all see, you are going to absolutely love this. Today, we're looking at one of the most recognizable brands in history. We're decoding the premium price of Red Bull. Okay, let's dive into this, because the strategy behind this little silver and blue can, it's an absolute masterclass in modern branding and consumer psychology. I mean, we all know the name, we all know the logo, but if you ever stop to really think about what you're actually handing your money over for when you buy one?
So, picture this. You're walking down the beverage aisle at your local grocery store or convenience shop. The fluorescent lights are buzzing overhead, and you're standing right in front of the energy drink section. You've got dozens, and I mean dozens, of neon-colored options staring right back at you. Now look closely at those price tags. Have you ever noticed that Red Bull often costs significantly more than a lot of its direct competitors? And that's even when their can is literally half the size. You can easily find a massive 16-ounce generic energy drink for, what, $2? While a tiny 8-ounce Red Bull might set you back $3 or $4. I want us to treat this like a real detective case. Why does this specific product command such a remarkably high price point? Like, what is the secret ingredient that lets them totally defy the standard pricing logic of that entire beverage aisle? Let's solve this mystery together and answer the core question, why does Red Bull cost so much?
Now, the totally natural first assumption any logical person makes is about the physical product itself, right? When we see a high price tag, we instinctively think, well, the liquid inside must just be incredibly expensive to produce. Maybe it's some rare, hard-to-source ingredient, or maybe a super complex manufacturing process that justifies that huge markup. But when we actually break down the physical ingredients, it completely shatters that assumption. The truth is, it's not just about what's inside the can. Actually, scratch that, it's definitely not about what's in the can. If you look at the recipe, you've got carbonated water, sugar, caffeine, taurine, which by the way is just a synthetic amino acid, so no, it's not actually bull extract, and some basic B vitamins. The math simply doesn't add up. The sheer cost of goods sold, the aluminum, the water, the sugar, we're talking pennies on the dollar here. It mathematically cannot justify the premium retail price tag. So the true value, the real reason for that high cost, goes far, far beyond those basic physical ingredients.
And this brilliantly illustrates the exact shift in perspective we need to take to crack this case. We have to completely change how we're looking at this. On one hand, you have the physical commodity, right? A simple, carbonated energy drink. If Red Bull only sold that physical liquid and absolutely nothing else, they'd be forced to price it identically to every other generic, store-brand energy drink on the market just to survive. But on the other hand, you have the psychological experience, the premium lifestyle. Red Bull has intentionally and honestly, masterfully separated the physical reality of their drink from the psychological perception of their brand in the consumer's mind. It's wild. When you crack open that can, you aren't just drinking a beverage anymore. You are literally consuming an idea.
This brings us to a fundamental concept that explains Red Bull's entire global strategy. They are a premium lifestyle brand. So what does this actually mean? Well, a premium lifestyle brand deliberately avoids competing mainly on price by making its product feel like an elevated, specific way of living. Think about how absolutely crucial this concept is to their survival and their profitability. If you compete solely on price in the beverage industry, man, it is a brutal race to the bottom. Whoever can manufacture the absolute cheapest caffeine sugar water wins, and those profit margins, they completely disappear. But by elevating what is essentially a super simple commodity into a premium lifestyle tier, Red Bull effectively removes itself from that destructive race. They aren't asking you to compare their price to a generic brand because, in the consumer's mind, they aren't even selling the same thing.
Okay, let's move to and see how this builds into an actual tangible business strategy. Because Red Bull hasn't just, politely claimed to be a lifestyle brand, they have built a massive multi-billion-dollar global empire to prove it to you every single day. Their whole foundation rests on these four pillars: energy, extreme sports, Formula One, and adventure. When you see those two charging Red Bulls on the logo, you don't just think of a sugary drink anymore. You think of Max Verstappen dominating the track at breathtaking speeds in a championship-winning Formula One car. You think of Felix Baumgartner stepping out of a capsule in the stratosphere back in 2012, free-falling from the actual edge of space while millions of us watched live on YouTube. They associate the brand with pushing the absolute limits of human endurance, danger, and adventure. They've essentially surrounded a basic little aluminum can with this undeniable aura of high-octane excitement.
This incredibly calculated investment leads to a fascinating psychological shift in the consumer, and they achieve this through a very specific three-step pipeline. Step 1, build a powerful brand. We just saw this with their massive investments in extreme sports, space jumps, and F1 teams. You see, they don't just sponsor these events, they own them. Step 2, stop competing on price. Because the brand is now inherently tied to elite performance and world-class adventure, it stands totally alone on the shelf. It has no true direct peer in the mind of the buyer. And then, step 3, charge a premium for the lifestyle. When you hold that can in your hand, you feel this subtle connection to that whole world of energy and excitement. The consumer is, consciously or subconsciously, totally willing to pay more because they feel like they're buying a remarkably cheap ticket into a highly exclusive adventurous club. You know, you might not be able to drive an F1 car yourself, but hey, you can drink exactly what the champion drinks.
So, the crucial point is that this entire strategy boils down to one simple, undeniable truth. They're paying for the brand, the experience, and the image behind it. This is the ultimate answer to our detective case. When a brand becomes as powerful, ubiquitous, and culturally relevant as Red Bull is today, the physical drink basically just becomes a souvenir of the brand's identity. I mean, think about it. Think about how much you're willing to overpay for a t-shirt at a concert or a keychain at a theme park. The material itself isn't worth the cost, right? But the memory and the association absolutely are. The premium price of Red Bull is a direct reflection of the billions of dollars and decades of relentless effort they spent crafting that specific, high-energy image. You are literally compensating them for the feeling they give you before you even pop the tab.
To summarize this core revelation, we have to really deeply recognize the difference between selling a product and selling an image. It's not just selling energy. That's merely the product, the baseline utility. It is entirely about selling a lifestyle. That is the image. If you just sell energy, well, your target customer is anyone who happens to be tired. And when people are just tired, they'll naturally buy whatever is cheapest and gets the job done. But if you sell a lifestyle, your customer is someone who wants to align their own identity with the daring, adventurous, premium image that you've projected out into the world. And human psychology dictates that people will almost always gladly pay a premium to reinforce and project their own sense of identity.
Which brings us to a question I really want to leave you with today. It's something to genuinely ponder the next time you're standing in that store aisle, those fluorescent lights buzzing, with your wallet in hand. When you buy a premium brand, whether that's an energy drink, a designer piece of clothing, or the latest smartphone, are you really paying for the physical product, or are you just buying the lifestyle? Understanding that difference just might change the way you see the world, and honestly, how you spend your hard-earned money. Thank you so much for focusing in with me today on this explainer. Keep asking questions, and I will see you in the next one.